Hello and welcome, my friends, my members, the members. There came a point with NextGEN Medium where I was NextGEN Medium. And then I thought it was kind of weird to have a name that isn't my name. And there came a point with the evolution of NextGEN Medium when it was like, NextGEN Medium isn't just me, it's everybody at this point in time who's connecting with their soul abilities. Like, you are the next gen medium. Like, there's never an ending to who the next generation of mediums are, or those who connect with their soul abilities. And so next gen medium is you. Maybe that's a good way to kind of start this off. Okay, so we're doing a series, you and me, where we're going off of the book that I made called The Zero F Splendidly Brief Beginner's Guide to Psychic Intuitive Mediumship and Healing Development. No frills, to the point. Get started now. Guide to start seeing your soul abilities for yourself. It's supposed to be ironic how long the title is. I thought it was funny. I wrote this. I published it, I want to say in September or August. And it was a rapid fire of getting this up to view for whoever wanted to look at it. So it's available for you as a member for free. You just got to click on the link in the blog. And if you can't find that, then I'm sure I'll put it somewhere else with big giant arrows being like, download it. Otherwise, it's $7.99. Excuse me, and in various forms. You guys have a PDF version, and it's also available as a reflowable EPUB document, which you can view on a tablet or on your phone. So it actually reformats depending on what kind of screen you have. That was fun to make. Also on Kindle, which I always say, don't do it on Kindle, please. The soul that it does have is just completely gone with Kindle. I can't. But you should have it for free. And it's kind of a thank you as a member. And it's also a way to really extend the community as a give and take. So this is where I need you guys to help me figure out what's next to come for NextGEN Medium, but in particular, this little guide that I made. And I was thinking of using the guide as a basis for a course and introducing the concepts to you guys, going through the book, getting your feedback about how things look, how they feel, what's said, what isn't said, is a way for you to contribute to putting this beyond a beta phase, and helping me to create something that's useful for other people. See? So not only is there an exchange of energy, it's energy that is going for the next generation of mediums. You know what I mean? I have my tea, my cup of tea. Today we have organic green tea, Good and Gather. Not Oakland coffee. I can't afford the subscription of Oakland coffee right now. It's good coffee though. I'm endorsing it. It's fair trade. So join me. Here we go. So let's get through it here. I have to say that I haven't been through this book in a while. One of the things that I kind of conscientiously was determined to do was to not look through this before being in front of the camera with you. I think my big reason for it was I don't want to think too much about what's in it because I can get kind of convoluted with things, which was one of the practices of why I wanted to make this book. How can I get to the grit, you know, those foundational pieces? I didn't want to make a book that had any coloring in it. I see coloring as stuff to do with divination, stuff to do with astrology, stuff to do with angels or crystals or any of this other stuff that I see as a distraction from the very basics of soul stuff. Um, what it's about, what are some of the very foundational things that we can all be on the same page with. I come from a very logical background, critical thinking background. And when you start throwing in angel names and God and other kinds of things like that, I think already my bias turns on. So I really wanted to make something that was something that didn't initiate bias and just give sort of the facts, theoretical facts. Okay, I think I'm ready. Are you ready? First of all, shoot me a message down below. Tell me that you took a look at this video. This video is only available for members. So there's a comment section below that I want you to take full advantage of. My hair looks like shit. That hideous background. The lighting is terrible. The camera quality is subpar. I want you to be brutally honest. Um, I figure the people that come here and want to be a part of NextGEN Medium are the kind of people that resonate with authenticity and integrity. And what kind of things would you say would add to that? Um, and all those things I just listed, I am aware of. I wish I had time and money to make things better when it comes to how I can present myself, my setting, the technology that I use. But this is what I got for now, you know? Um, so I'm totally down with suggestions. I am totally down with whatever kind of feedback you guys have to give. I am especially appreciative of the content that I deliver and clarification you may need or some details you notice that make things a little bit confusing or like that stuff's the meat. That's the stuff that's most important. I can put on a dress, light some candles, buy a thing, borrow a piece of equipment. Um, but what's most important to me with your feedback is the meat. But hey, I'm down with whatever you suggest. And I do appreciate it. It comes up from a good place, it goes to a good place, you know? All right, I've rambled for far too long. So let's get into the first video of going through some of the stuff in here. So I'm going to go chronologically with how the book is set up. And I'm going to be splitting it up into sections. I have yet to figure out what those sections are going to be. So I'm going to wait until I run out of energy. And then I'm going to be like, you know what? Let's get back to this another time. My time is usually pretty scheduled. I usually have too many things to get to at any given moment in any given time. I do this to myself. And I want to be better at keeping the quality and doing things that are worth my effort and worth my time. So if this benefits you, then I've done my job and I'm on the right track. That's how I feel. The Zero F Splendidly Brief Beginner's Guide to Psychic, Intuitive, Mediumship, and Healing Development. A no frills to the point, get started now guide to start seeing your soul abilities for yourself by Sarah Nickerson. Cheers! Ding! Let's begin. All right, taking a look at the table of contents. Yeah. A little bit of spearmint in there. It's kind of nice. First is the introduction. Then we get into reframing your understanding of psychic, mediumship, intuition, and healing. This is setting up sort of physical world understanding versus what's the difference. Next up is the physical world versus the soul world. This is starting to separate your reality from another reality that is parallel. And then we start getting into stuff like soul senses, soul abilities, source. These are helping to define how you receive, what you receive, what's in control of it. And then we go into starting to explore and start setting up the foundation of that, from meditation basics to opening up, imagination, using the imagination as your tool, observing, defining meaning. And then we start talking about developing your journaling, which is essential for your process. I would say what trumps everything is journaling. You want to have a document of how you're doing what you do, because then you're capable of looking back and really seeing your progress for yourself in a more objective way. It's easy to get stuck in your head. It's easy to discount things, but if it's written on a page, there's no denying that. So we'll talk about that. And then we will talk about the exercises and worksheets that have been provided for you as a member already. And maybe you've already had some playtime with. So we'll get more in depth with that stuff. So let's take a look at the introduction. And maybe I'll have some little side notes to throw in. And that was kind of the point. Like, let's bring personality to this blissfully brief guide. Introduction. Congratulations. Your curiosity to find out more about something you genuinely are interested in has just started you on a journey that will forever change your life. This journey will change how you prioritize your life, how you find your purpose, and this guide will bring attention to the core information to start exploring your soul abilities on your own. You've been preparing for this your whole life, even if you've lived your whole life not knowing what to focus on when it comes to receiving information with your soul abilities and soul senses. This no frills guide will give you just the necessities in order to recognize your abilities by becoming aware of concepts, being exposed to definitions, and reframing your experiences to start uncovering the tools you've had your whole life. The journey doesn't have to be complicated, and this guide is proof of that. It's brief. Theoretically fact. That's the term I use, right? If you are willing to be open and honest with the experiences to come, then this guide will set you up to start uncovering your own truth to discover. Okay. So, one of the cool things in my journey was how exploring my soul abilities provided me evidence that allowed me to buy in to an alternative world happening alongside ours. I don't think seeing or witnessing someone else do this stuff would have impacted me the way that it did, seeing it for myself, experiencing it for myself, almost challenging my reality, not almost, like challenging my reality. Soul abilities, exploration opened up understanding of a different world, but also communication with myself in a way that I'd never recognized before. And so I think there's a lot of things that exploring your soul abilities can do, but ultimately it's to connect you with your higher self and understand that being, that higher being of you, and how to have a conversation with this you, with you. And it really opens up the world of possibilities of your own truth, right? And no, the journey doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, we probably make it more complicated than it needs to be, just because that's the world we grow up in. It's a world where someone else has the answer. You're going to someone else for understanding, institutional knowledge. You don't understand God. Your pastor understands God, right? You don't understand math. Your math teacher understands math. These are people to go to for the answer instead of you being the person to have the answer, which you do. You have your own answers. You just got to explore to find those answers. We can do that with soul abilities, which brings us to finding that truth of our higher self, of our higher self. Okay. Whew. Sometimes I black out and I don't realize what I'm saying. Don't be worried. It's okay. It's just tea time. This guide will give you the rundown on just the basics, such as your abilities as a birthright, setting expectations, the way you sense using your innate abilities, what soul abilities are and how they differentiate from each other, what opening up is to receive messaging, what to pay attention to observe messages, how this book works. First, I will set you up with the concepts and direction. Then the guide will continue with exercises and worksheets to capture and focus your attention on what to look out for to see your abilities for yourself. Let's get started. One of the big things that I focus on with this book, especially when it comes to the exercises, especially the worksheets, is identifying how your soul abilities have popped up in the past, but maybe you don't address as soul abilities at work. So it's starting to look at things in a different way, in a different perspective of what have I ignored? What have I been not cognizant to? What are examples that maybe I hadn't related to using soul abilities, psychic ability or mediumship, or even your intuition? We all have weird experiences. We all dismiss them. We all go to bed and think, man, that was a weird thing that happened. And it comes up in our brains every once in a while. Those are the kinds of things we need to address. All right, so let's get started. All right, first, to get things underway, we'll kind of start things off with a blank slate. One world that we all understand is the physical social world. It is the worlds that toddlers have to get used to in order to become socialized and go into an institutional school, right? My son needs to be able to poop in a potty. He needs to be able to write his name, and he needs to be able to say the ABCs. So these are things that we teach our children in order to socialize them and get them ready for institutional learning. He needs to learn how to write, how to communicate. He needs to learn how to say his ABCs. He needs to know the basics of our language that we share with one another. He also needs to be able to relay information. So not only have it in his brain pocket, but be able to retrieve it and throw it back at us as information that he is aware of. And then he has to poop in the toilet because it makes things easier for everybody, right? That's socializing. So we grow up in a world that gets more intricate with the social expectations and even the social expectations that are put on us, but we put on ourselves because it's put on us. And there are things to recognize with that physical world experience that I also call it, let's see, I have a couple names: physical world, 3D world. I also call it the egoic or social world. So these all kind of mean the same thing, but I could be using different terminology based on what exactly we're talking about. So connect those kind of concepts together because they all fall within this evolved human beings in a social world. Okay? Human beings, evolved, civilized, social world. Okay? We got social strata, right? I got a pastor. He knows more about God than I do. He's more connected to God than I am. I have a teacher. That person is more educated in math than I am. That person knows the answers to math. That person has a higher understanding of math than I ever will. Okay. Sometimes you got to read between the lines with me because sometimes I get a little sarcastic and you don't know it. So, always know that I think you know truth more than anybody else does. And that's something we need to develop for ourselves. And the other part of it is our truth is our own truth that we can't share with anybody else because of our different ways of experiencing this world from our lifetime, from our situations and our experiences. All right, done with that diatribe. Let's read the page, Sarah. Being a psychic medium intuitive healer is your birthright. You were born to do these things. It's who we are. Here we go. Everyone has the potential to experience and control their psychic, medium, intuitive, and healing abilities for themselves. From now on, we'll call them collectively soul abilities. It's just easier, just to give an umbrella term. Like fibromyalgia is all these things, right? You can have some of the things, you don't need all of the things, but we're just going to call it fibromyalgia just to throw a term at you. And there are some ways that these terms, psychic, medium, intuitive, and healing, there's some ways that they are similar in which it's almost blurring the line of definition between the two. And then there are other ways where you're kind of turning the definition on its side, where one thing is this, and just because the source is different, it's called this. But we'll get into that. But time being, soul abilities. That's what I like to call it. You've had the opportunity to use these natural skills the whole time you've lived in this body. The body, that is your vehicle. These skills come with your human being. No matter how long it's taken you to get here, you are in it now. Do know that the time it has taken to get here was needed for you to prepare for this guide. This moment in time. And yes, I'm talking to you, listening and watching right now. Everything is built up to this moment. This is not a mistake. This is not a happenstance. This is not by chance. This moment was meant to exist right now, where you're at with your spirituality, with your soul abilities, whatever. Right now, there's something happening. From this point forward, your experiences are references. Detaching yourself emotionally from those experiences, they are references. These are things that will aid you when it comes to explaining to somebody else what the hell's going on, or even explaining to yourself what the hell's going on. From this point forward, your experiences are references, objective, and research on existing as a human being. No one else understands the world the way that you do. This is your special gift you bring to the table. Starting now, you will be joining an understanding that everyone can feel, but not everyone is knowingly part of. Whew. Man, I'm good. This writing stuff. Soul abilities are skills, not gifts. You are not chosen or blessed. You aren't born to read, but once we gain awareness of what reading is, taught to us, taught to use it and practice it, we accept without much hesitation that it's a skill that can be taught to just about anybody. And it's the same with soul abilities. The fact of the matter is, nobody has sat down with you to teach you these things. If you haven't noticed these abilities for yourself yet, maybe you aren't quite sure what to look for. You just need to know what to pay attention to. Yeah, someone needs to sit with you to teach you these things. But another important factor is a belief in your own truth is stripped away from you pretty early on. And being self-sufficient is stripped away from you very early as well. And so when these two things are taken, I kind of think of like a three-legged table. You take one of the legs away, it can't stand on its own. And that's something that's taken away from us. And it's hard for us to navigate a socially misunderstood ability that people are very skeptic of because they don't want to see it or understand the subtleness of it. And then other people have to suffer because of it. But we'll get there. All right. Let's look at some numbers. I like numbers. In a YouGov.com poll, oh, I forgot to read the heading. Believing you've had a psychic experience is more common than you think. I have the worst time saying the word psychic. You will notice it. Now I got it in your head. In a YouGov.com poll from October 2017, 1,183 Americans were polled. This is going to sound familiar because this is from a podcast. The survey found 24% of those surveyed believed they are individuals with the ability to see the future. 1 in 4 people think, I'm clairvoyant. I can see the future. The survey also showed that 34% of those surveyed say they have experienced a psychic moment, like a premonition, or correctly predicted the future. That's 1 in 3. In this poll, no matter the level of education completed, income level, region from in the United States, or age group, it did not matter. 1 in 3 people claim to have had a psychic experience across the board. 33%. How can so many people believe something that is BS? Maybe because the experience they've had is enough to shift them that maybe what people are calling BS isn't so BS-y. Sorry about my throat. Take a sip of tea. Western culture is becoming more comfortable in recent years with psychic abilities, people with psychic abilities, people experiencing psychic experiences themselves. I was 33 when I discovered control of my psychic skills and more for myself. I'm convinced that these skills had surfaced occasionally leading up to actively taking on the adventure, but I didn't remotely see myself as a psychic or as a medium or any other term like that. I didn't see that I had abilities because they didn't happen when I would summon it to happen. I'm going to go back. These skills have been lying dormant my whole lifetime, with the exception of occasional, unpredictable, and unwarranted showings. You know what I'm talking about. I lived 33 years on this earth not knowing the full scope of my abilities or how any of the soul ability stuff worked. Not long after seeing these skills emerge, they became within my control and accessibility. Now, years later, I am helping people uncover and discover their own soul abilities by providing readings and development training. Crazy town. So, I had experiences. I had a dream that I can vividly recall where I dreamed something that happened 2 days later, like the same thing. I also experienced a lot of déjà vu, which to me, I place, from my own experience, to me, I place as dreams I've had in the past that appear and happen in real life. Okay. So I've had stuff that have happened that some people would be like, "Oh my god, am I psychic?" But never did I think, like, that I'm psychic because they weren't things that happened all the time. They weren't things that I felt like were in my control, um, and I didn't really see myself as anything that special, because growing up, it wasn't everybody has these abilities. Growing up, it was, oh, there's a famous guy on TV that does medium gallery readings, and he must have known all his life. And his story is that, who am I thinking of? John Edward? No S. And so that's what I grew up with. Like people who knew they were psychics or mediums from a very early age because they had pretty straightforward kind of experiences that are kind of like, luckily for them, they had the logic to discern what was going on or had family that could harness or help um, educate, you know. Um, but I never experienced that stuff growing up other than what those few, examples. And now I call myself a psychic medium. I don't like calling myself a psychic medium because I think it says that some people aren't and some people aren't, and I don't think that's true. In the world of labels that we live in our social strata, that's what I say so that people can identify with what my deal is. But in the end, I think everybody has these abilities. And for me to be able to say, I have these abilities, has really shifted what I understand of who I am and what I'm capable of and what we're all capable of and the kind of crazy existence that we could have if a lot more people engage with this part of themselves and maybe bring it to the forefront for our own civilization. And then we can take over the world. Okay. Next paragraph. I've had experiences from years ago that I can distinctly recall as the tip of the iceberg of what I know now. Of course, knowing what I know now explains those past experiences. I bet you have had some of these experiences that you can't explain that are hints of your abilities too. These are the taps on the shoulder that I had experienced. Now it's time for you to know this is yours. Like really know it. If you reasoned your way out of a psychic mediumship intuitive healing experience, you see, did I do it there? No. Intuitive healing experience. I'm telling you, psychic. That word always trips me up. You actually have had, but consider it something that strikes you as a possibility of your own abilities. Know that it is not unusual to have the experiences you've had. What is unusual is accepting it as a skill and learning to work it. Work it. All right. I think we're going to do these last two sections here, and then we're going to call it a week. And then we'll get into the physical world versus the soul world next week. Okay. Benefits to using your soul abilities. Soul abilities are a way for us to identify that there is more than can be sensed with the physical senses. There is more that we can take in when it comes to information. What the hell is that? I don't know. There is more. I live in a house full of people. There's no way in hell this was going to go, without someone interrupting. The world I live in. The physical world I live in. The physical senses. The senses that your body, this tool you were given, how it takes in what goes on around it. There's more that you receive with information. More that you receive. That information is taken in by. Okay. I don't know if I explained that well. Tell me in the comments, did I suck at that? Using our soul abilities and cross-referencing its information to the facts of this physical world is our evidence of another entity, space, or set of rules. Okay, so I talk about the physical worlds. Now we're talking about the evidence of another entity, space, set of rules. That would be the soul world. I didn't say it there, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, do you call it a soul world? Do you call it source? Do you call it? This is the problem. We need like a different way of understanding this stuff in terms. We need terms so we can talk about this. Okay. Using soul abilities is the gateway to understanding bigger concepts of consciousness, energy, or the spiritual realm. These abilities allow access to information in ways that are deemed fictional, irrational, impossible, and fantasy in the world and cultures we grew up in and become accustomed to. Realizing your soul abilities is proof of a bigger influence than what we are grown up to believe as reality. With realization comes exploration and development of your own truth, the truth of what is. Some people would be like, I grew up with an understanding of God. That's a bigger influence. Soul abilities is understanding that you are God. Does that make sense? That a piece of God is in you, and it's always been in you, and it's always going to be in you. You are a piece of it. God, source, the divine, whatever ever kind of terms you want to put to it. However, if you grew up with a religion where there was a separation between you and God, where you needed to ask forgiveness from God, and God was always mad at you for something, like spiritual world, that's not how it works. You're not beholden to something that judges you. Spiritual world is you are your own judger with your own gavel. Spiritual world is you are the one that controls how things happen, how things go. And you don't have an entity watching you, judging you, deciding that this is good and this is bad. Soul stuff is about you having that control and you having that power and you being responsible with it. You feel insecure, unsure of your identity, unclear on your purpose, and fearful of a plethora of things. Seeing the proof of your soul abilities, discovering and becoming convinced of a new world will unleash what you've been missing for a long time. An unfiltered connection to yourself, connecting with your true self, who you really are. Right now, you are a square peg who's been molded to fit in a round hole to survive the social rules of your civilization. Physical, social world. Physical world, 3D plane, physical plane, social. civilized. You were never supposed to be around Peg, but here you are, square corners chipped away. Now's the time to be you. Bring satisfaction and find security with the comfort of making your own decisions and forging your path that feels right to you. You are responsible. You are in charge. God isn't separate of you. God is in you. He's a piece of you. You're a piece of God. Okay. Or source or bleh, or bleh, whatever. Divine light. That's a thing, right? All right. Last piece, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Set your expectations for what's about to go down. This work of uncovering your soul abilities does not work on timelines. It works at the pace of the time and interest you devote to exploration, becoming aware of your fears, accepting of your fears, and recognizing their presence during your exploration, the risk you are willing to take to give up limits you've bound yourself to, recognizing those boundaries. It's like peeling an onion. There's just so many layers. And you're never done. You're never done peeling that onion. Accepting that your imagination is a place of information and not make believe. Okay, so that's a lot. How can you put a timeline to becoming aware of something or recognizing something or exploring when you don't know how to explore it yet? It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes a need to want to know your truth. And I don't know what could give you more purpose, more passion than to find your truth. It's yours. You know, I think that's really exciting. To put it another way, it works at the speed of understanding, surrendering, and revelation. How much time does that take? Your life experiences are what have set you up for this journey. Those experiences took time to happen and took time to create meaning for you. Now, be patient with yourself and the process. Know that you will get what you need when you need it. It will unravel the way you need it to unravel. This is the way, Confucius say. All right. Damn, if there's any good time to stop reading, it's right now when I say, be patient. All right, so we're at page 10. Next week, we'll go over the physical world versus the soul world. We'll talk about the soul senses, the soul abilities. We'll talk about source. That'll be a quick one. Then we'll see if maybe we can get into meditation stuff, but I might save that for the next video. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to talk about my intuitive abilities, psychic abilities, mediumship stuff, healing stuff. This is examples I can give you that might resonate with your experience and might be a little chill factor for you if you're like, geez, I think I've experienced that before. And if you can resonate, that itself is a message from your intuition. Recognize how that feels, because that is the language of your intuition. It works through how you feel. We'll talk about that next week. Okay, that's it. Have a great week, and I will chat with you again. Give me your comments. Be brutal. Be nice. Be kind. I know I can count on you guys to be kind. But honesty and integrity are like my number one. And I would appreciate anything you want to throw at me. So please put something in the comments, and I look forward to doing this again next week. And have a great rest of your week and a great holiday. And I'll chat with you next week.